Welcome to NHL Tonight, first shift for a Friday, January the 10th, 2025. EJ Radick here, along with Michael Del Zotto, making his first appearance here on First Shift. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. What an honor to be here.
Well, an honor. You might be going too far with honor, but I do appreciate the sentiment. And, we did a little stuff earlier in the year on some of the other shows, but say it here. Congratulations on a great career. I think it's hard to get to play one game in the National Hockey League. You played like a whole bunch of games, a whole bunch of years. So congratulations on that. Welcome to this end of the business.
Thank you.
We're happy to have you. And I've had in my doing some stuff with you already. You have a lot of good insights. So we'll try to pick a little more stuff out of you today.
Forward to it.
Yeah. So, let's just get right to the first things first, because we had some interesting games last night. We had 10 games on the docket, and I want to, we highlighted a lot yesterday, Michael, like Crosby versus McDavid, right? I mean, it's, like when you write the book of hockey at the end of time, these guys are going to be in the top 5, 10, somewhere of all the players ever. And then last night, you can see both guys had 3 points. The Penguins got off to a great start in the game, had the lead. The Oilers came back later, couldn't catch up. But for the Penguins, they had lost 7 straight times to the Oilers. Yeah. So they needed to win really badly. So it was just a good spot for them, I guess. And they came out and got the lead and hung on.
The goal differential was ugly in the 7 games too.
Yes.
And with how competitive Sid is, he had this one circled on the calendar, right? And you saw the way he played that first shift. He came out making plays. This for me was the passing of the torch. Like Sid for me is still my number one player until I think McDavid wins the amount of cups that Sid has. Yeah. I still have
or at least gets to one.
At least gets to one. Well, but Sid still has done everything, and how he's been able to make players around him better. He's playing with some great players now, but earlier in his career, he's.
Yeah, he made some careers.
No knock on these other guys, but those were on most teams. Those are probably third, maybe second line players, and he made those guys a lot of money and phenomenal careers, and even some of them brought to the Olympic team. So. Phenomenal game last night, 2 of the best players. It's a shame we only get to see them play twice a year.
I know, it is unfortunate. And, I want to ask you about Crosby, because I asked you about McDavid when we were on another show, and you talked, obviously, the speed. He has another gear, and, you talked about facing him as a defenseman. But what I want to ask you about Crosby, because it's a different animal with Sidney Crosby. You defended him, you played against him throughout your career, and I'll remember when you showed up in New York at 19, you're dealing with a younger Sidney Crosby. What is it like to play against him on kind of a night-to-night basis?
I, unfortunately, have to play him 8 times a year this last CBA. That's the amount of times you play your divisional opponents. With him, I think the thing that stuck out for me the most was his ability to pass the puck on his backhand was just as good as most players on the forehand. So as a defender, you're typically trying to guide or push a forward to his backhand to force him into a lower percentage play. But with Sid, and his ability to pass on his backhand, there's no low percentage play. So his ability to pass the puck, but then how hard he competes down low when he gets on his edges and he's below the goal line, it's so hard to knock him off the puck. His ability on the cycle and make plays down low is what makes him so special.
Yeah, he seems like he's thick. Like when you see him, like he's solid. Like to that
got those hockey
point.
Legs. He's got those hockey legs. Yeah, you lean on him, and instead of getting positioning that way, you end up allowing him to get a competitive advantage because you're pushing him in the direction he wants to go.
I'll ask you also about his compadre there, Evgeny Malkin, for many years. Also a great player, going to be a Hall of Famer someday, first ballot Hall of Famer. The difference between those 2 guys, because obviously they play different styles.
2 very different players, 2 phenomenal careers. My first NHL game was actually in Pittsburgh when they were raising the Stanley Cup banner. They won the year before.
No big deal.
It was Malkin, Crosby, Letang, Flower, all these legendary players. You defend them a little bit differently. I think maybe the knock on Malkin was you just didn't know how consistent of an effort you're going to get on a nightly basis, where with Sid, he brings it every single night. And that's why he wears a C and he is the leader of that hockey club.
When Malkin is going, though,
he's special.
Like, what do you have to work? Because he is long. He's another strong guy.
When you see him off the ice, by no means is he a physical specimen, but on the ice, he's rangy, right? He's able to put himself in interesting positions with his reach. Still uses a bit of a shorter stick, but can also pass the puck and can score too. And he's got, I think, a little bit more high-end skill in tighter spaces, which is a crazy thing to say when you're talking to comparing him to Sidney Crosby, but some little differences there.
Yeah, for sure. That game last night, the Oilers have been playing so well. They came into the game. They had beaten Pittsburgh 7 straight times. They have been playing very well in their last, I guess it's like 19, 20 games right there. I think they had like 3 losses coming into last, I think it was 15-3-1. Is that a night where maybe, and again, I lean on your experience of playing so many games, like you're just not going to have it every night. Like maybe, just shut out Boston, you're feeling good, your team's been playing well, and the other team maybe is a little bit more dug in than they have to be.
Pittsburgh needs the points.
Yeah.
I think they maybe were a little bit more desperate. They understood what was at stake. I love the way Edmonton's playing right now. They got off to their cold start, which might be their MO. I don't know. They've done it 2 years in a row.
They seem like that's who they are.
They turn it on, and then come playoff time, and Leon. We always talk about Connor, but Leon, the stretch that he's on. Nugent's playing better. Hyman's playing phenomenal, and
he got off to a real slow start.
Very slow start, and you saw on that first goal there, just his ability to drive the net. He complements those other players so well.
Yeah. One other quick one before we turn the page on those two teams. You mentioned Draisaitl, and I asked you about the other guys, and I don't want to leave Leon out because, again, it's a unique guy to play against, and you had a chance to go up against him. What was it like going up against him? Because he is a big man, too.
He's a big man. Similar to Sid, he's able to pass on the back end just as good as his forehand. I just think the chemistry that those guys have developed there, they make the game easy for each other. They're able to find each other. They read off each other. With how quick the game is now, you always talk about communication, right? Being each other's eyes and ears, helping each other out because you can't hold anyone up anymore. Yeah. But those guys just, they know where to be. And when you have a group of 5 that have been together as long as they have, we're talking about their power play specifically, it's like clockwork for them. They go out there, they know where they're going to be, they fill the right spots, and they're an entertaining team to watch on any given night. And last night, it was an unfortunate one. But
they just got behind early. I thought they might come back.
I was going to say, 4-goal lead is they're never out of it with that team. I was surprised they left Skinner in. Not that I blame them for all the goals, but maybe just to get a little bit of a momentum shift. But they can score goals, so there's no lead that's safe with those guys.
Draisaitl's got that big paddle of a blade, right? Yeah. As I see him on that low circle, it's almost like no angle on that, and he can still manage to kind of sweep or one-time that puck in from that really tough angle.
And it's not that it's that hard of a shot. We're not talking an Ovechkin-style shot, but he picks those little spots. He doesn't need much room, and he finds it. And a lot of the time, it's just above the goal line too. It's not like he's up in the top of the circle where he's got numerous angles to shoot from or numerous spots. It's a tough angle, so he's mastered that, and it's credit to him. I'm sure they work on that every single day in practice, and he's mastered his craft.
So many great players on one ice sheet last night, all Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
In Pittsburgh, and so the Penguins get the win. Let's flip it over to the Leafs and the Hurricanes. That was another game we talked about coming into action last night, and the Leafs have been playing really well. They've won 5 in a row. And then we have, I think this is the lineup for the Masters. We have a 600 par, 600. It's a two-way tie for the lead through one round in Augusta. Or they were down in Raleigh. There's a lot of golf there, so maybe fittingly. But yeah, tough night, listen, plus minus. Listen, it's not good, obviously. You don't want to have those numbers, but there's always mitigating factors. The Leafs have played well, Michael, and I know that, you're among those many that, it's been a while. You want to see it in the playoffs. You're not ready to say, hey, there's a big change. But I want to ask you this. You won 5 in a row. You go last night. They had a lead. They blew the lead. They lose 6-3. Not their greatest game. How do you put it behind you? I mean, is it good to have those once in a while to remind you what you have to do?
You throw the tape out of that one, I think, for sure. They're playing much better under Chief, and I've had him 2 stops in my career, and his identity is starting to settle in with that group on how they need to play on a consistent basis. I think the Chris Tanev pickup was phenomenal.
Right?
He's not a vocal leader, but you watch him on the ice.
Did you play with Chris?
I play. He was my D partner in Vancouver.
Well, there you go. So you're a good guy to ask.
He blocks shots. He does all the little things. It's just his presence in the locker room. That this guy's going to give everything he has on a nightly basis to win. So having that guy there, I think was a phenomenal pickup for them. It's an off night for them. Surprisingly, they got off to a lead, and in Carolina, that's tough. That's one of the toughest buildings to get off to a good start, and it feels like there's 6 guys on the ice. The way they play, because they play a man-on-man style, they put pucks in, they're on the forecheck, they're relentless.
They're always going north.
That's Brendan Moore-style hockey, right? So for them to get to an early lead was very surprising and uncharacteristic of the Hurricanes, but then they just turned it on. And I think the biggest thing for them is, not a great night for Woll, but getting Stolarz back is going to be
hopefully
what
next
they
month.
need. And as you said, I like the changes until we see it in playoffs. So you can't
Well, it won't
you
mean
can't-
it won't mean
It
anything,
means nothing.
right?
Exactly.
It's like there's
it's the same Leafs team that everyone cries about every single year.
Yeah.
We want to see more. We want to see more. And until we see that, I'm not sold on them.
It's kind of like Winnipeg, right? Because Winnipeg's had the great start
Yeah.
this year, right? And until we see it in the playoffs,
Yeah.
do we really believe it? So
Exactly.
I tend to believe it a little more this year from the Leafs. I think they're more contender than pretender that they've been in the past because I think they're harder.
Yeah.
And to your point about Tanev, one more thing about him because you know him so well. Like I think he actually is. He does some things offensively that are not bad. He'll make a really good first pass.
Yeah.
That's under the radar because people think about him as tough, blocking shots, hard to play against. I think he's got some good hand skills too.
I couldn't believe it until I played with them. I was like, did he just make that play?
Yeah.
And he would always go back for pucks, very aware of his surroundings, where his options were and his outlets were. Always head over, checking his blind spots, and he would just make these little 5-10 foot passes through the middle of the ice and would just easily get out of your zone. So as a defense partner, it wasn't always yelling for the D-to-D pass. He would be able to make a play with a player on his back, and he doesn't get enough credit for his, because it's not like he's scoring many goals. He doesn't have, you'll be the first to admit he's got a bit of a muffin, doesn't have a bomb of a shot, but in today's game, getting out of your zone very quickly, and especially with the forwards they have up front, put the puck in their hands and allow them to do what they're getting paid as much money as they are to do.
So you have a shift, you're with Chris, you come to the bench. What kind of teammate was he? You get back to the bench in between shifts, in between periods. What was that like?
Not much conversation. He's a pretty quiet guy. Yeah, you let him do his thing.
Yeah.
You admire the heart he has
Yeah.
and his ability to block shots. He's fearless, and you'd cringe sometimes when you see him go down. A guy winding up for a one-timer, and he wouldn't even think twice, and he's getting in that lane.
Yeah, so he has been a great addition for the
Yeah.
Leafs. And listen, you're right. We're not going to know until the playoffs. And then it's matchups, it's injuries. If they have goaltending injuries, that's a problem there. So, for me, I just think, again, they'll be a much harder out. Whether they will be when it comes time, I don't know. But I like the things I see from their team.
If you're the GM, who are you looking to get at the deadline? Where's the hole, right? Is it, to me, is it another defenseman? Yeah. Maybe one more in the back end because of some of the injuries? Is it a third line depth player that, because Tampa Bay did it perfectly, right? Those years they won the cup. Every year they were getting the Brandon Hagels, the Nick Pauls, these guys that would fill up their third line.
Right? Barclay Goodrow.
Exactly, because
different players
typically
like
the
that.
best players will cancel each other out.
Yeah.
And it's okay, who's next? Who's next to step up? And Tampa had those third lines every year that essentially won them the cup. So is that the hole that they're looking to fill? Toronto, I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, that Matthew Nyes has stepped up.
Yeah.
And playing very well.
Yeah.
So that's another guy to think about. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with the Toronto Maple Leafs, but certainly not happy about the way things went last night. Here's some news from the Utah Hockey Club. Forward Dylan Guenther will be out indefinitely with a lower body injury. They're playing tonight at home against San Jose. The club has recalled Josh Doan from Tucson, Shane Doan's son. I just saw Shane out at the World Juniors and asked him about Josh, that he's doing well and he gets a chance again at the National Hockey League level. The coach of the team talked about it today in Utah, said it's an injury. He said it's long, but it's not that long when referring to season-ending injury. But that's tough. There's a young player, getting dinged up, and now he's got to sit there. In Utah, they're kind of trying to find their way. Here's a look at the point leaders. He's right in the middle of that.
Yeah, he was a pleasant surprise. I think when he got that long-term contract at the start, they're like, oh, we don't really know. We know of his past, but hasn't really done in the NHL, and he can score goals, and he's been a great addition for them. When someone goes down with injury, it's another opportunity for someone else, right?
Yeah.
And Doan has a small sample size, but has done well. He goes in, and it's not a day-to-day injury, so maybe this is an opportunity for him to show what he can do and maybe stick around and help them make a push the second half of the season.
With Utah, they come in from Arizona. There was like a lot of fanfare at the start. They had a good start to the season. They've kind of fallen back a little bit. You've been on a number of different teams. You've been on really good teams. You won a Stanley Cup winner. You're on other teams where it's more of a struggle. Is it hard to start to believe in yourself that we are better, this team is better than it was in the past and things are going to be different, or do teams just fall into almost a malaise of this is kind of who we are?
Yeah, it's tough when you're losing every single year and you have a core group that's been there for that long, and now those are the young players that are now becoming the veterans. It's all they know, and it's tough to change that culture just by filling in a few veteran players that come help out. it has to come from within, and you have to start winning. Winning is the only way.
That's
that,
right,
that
right?
cures
Constant
these
belief,
woes. Exactly.
right?
So you get into the second half of the season, you're not in a playoff spot, and you're like, oh boy, here we go again. And it's hard to eliminate those negative feelings out of your head and be able to play and have that confidence that you're expected to win every night, or at least have an opportunity to. So I feel for them, because when you're on a losing team, the season drags out, and you're counting down the days to the offseason to hopefully get some type of reset and have some type of hope for the following year.
Yeah, it seemed like going to a new site. Like, I know in my lifetime watching hockey, when teams move, sometimes that really jump starts. I was in Dallas when the North Stars came to Dallas, and they had a great season there. And I thought Utah could be in for the same kind of uptick, but they've kind of got bogged down a little bit. So, we'll see. There's plenty of time left to go for them. They're home tonight against the San Jose Sharks. So there's another 2 points. Try to go out and get it. Try to go out and get it if you can. Coming up next, I got some bad news for you, Michael. We got Dan Rosen coming up next. It's time for the Super 16. You're going to see his lists. Sometimes, well, most of the time, it's kind of dicey. But we'll see what he's got with his new list. That's coming up next here on First Shift. It is time now for the Super 16, presented by Enterprise, and that means our pal, our friend from NHL.com, Dan Rosen. Dan, it's been a while.
It's been too long, EJ. It's been too long. Let's go. Let's do it. We haven't this the first
That's
time.
it.
Right?
No pleasantries. How was the holidays? Happy New Year.
We are way past
Nothing.
that.
Not a small talk guy.
No, he's not. He just wants to get right to the list. So maybe he feels, Michael, this is the week that he has a good list.
He's coming in confident right now.
So we will see. We of course will be the judge of whether he has a good list or not. So let's get it started. All right. No pleasantries.
It's January 10th. I don't care how your New Year was anymore.
Wow.
So let's go, right?
That's very nice, but
no, it isn't. All right, let's go. We got the Columbus Blue Jackets. They gotta be in. I mean, 3 wins in a row.
Probably could be
4,
higher.
5, 7, and 10 could be. But the Detroit Red Wings are 15. They're in too because they've won 5 games in a row. Montreal Canadiens are in. They've won 8 of their last 10 with some good wins too. Vancouver, Colorado, Vegas, Tampa, Florida, some good wins there. And now the Tampa Bay Lightning are there as well at 13. You're probably going to say, well, I mean, they lost 3 in a row in California. They've come back. They've won 2. And we're just going on body of work here. I got to have them ahead of these other teams. These other teams have to do a little bit more over a bigger sample size to jump ahead there. But got to have Columbus, Detroit, and Montreal in.
well, I don't mind that, but as we just discussed, Michael, like we're underneath, like when he was babbling on, I try not to pay too close attention. It could be catching. But like Columbus, I think it should be a little higher. They've played very well, and like they're right there on the playoff bubble.
They're playing well. Zach Werenski is.
Yeah.
I mean, what a clinic he's been putting on.
In the Norris conversation.
100%. He's making me eat my words a little bit. He's a great player. I wasn't expecting this type of production from him, and I think with the team just playing better. But as far as being the most valuable for your team, he's in that race.
Yeah. So we'll play along.
Okay.
We'll play along to this
here.
point, and I don't have anything to kill you on yet, but let's see what else you got.
All right, let's flip it there. We go to 12. The 12 team is the New Jersey Devils. 1-4-1 in their last 6, all on the road. That's a long road trip. It's the hardest part of their schedule on the road. So they drop a little bit.
It was such a tough trip to go into San Jose and Anaheim. I mean,
come on.
Those are places you got no chance going into those spots.
Oh, my goodness. And they come back and they lose to the Rangers 3-2 in overtime.
Yeah.
Carolina's also been somewhat inconsistent.
Yes, they have.
4-1 in their past 8. You know what? Florida is at 10. They've been inconsistent as well. They're the last team I'm worried about. I'm certainly not worried about the Florida Panthers when we get to April, but they have been inconsistent right now, so they're at 10. And the Edmonton Oilers, not inconsistent. They have won 4 games in a row before losing to Pittsburgh, but there's a lot of teams right now that are playing really well, and when we go to 1 through 8, you'll see it. Like, Edmonton could easily be in there, but there's a lot of teams right in that 1 through 8 that push them to 9 right now, and had they beat Pittsburgh, maybe they're in that top 8, but they didn't beat Pittsburgh.
They didn't. You're right. They fell behind early and couldn't catch up. I'm going to withhold judgment on that pick of Edmonton because they've been playing really well. Now, they did lose
have.
last night, but since like November 23rd, I think now with that game, they're 15-4-1, I believe. So we'll go to your top 8. We'll see where you're at. Then I could come back. I could circle back, and then I could take a good PC if I need to.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm here. You can get all of it if you'd like.
Right.
That's fine. Right. We'll go to the top 8.
Let's go.
All right. Number 8, Dallas. 6 wins in a row for the Dallas Stars. 7-0-1 in their past 8. They're 2-0 on this road trip. Been playing really well at home. Got to play well on the road. So far, so good. The LA Kings, 4 wins in a row since a 3-1 loss to Washington on December 22nd. The Toronto Maple Leafs, they had won 5 in a row before losing to Carolina, playing very good hockey. But they have lost twice in the last little over a month to Washington. So the Washington Capitals are in at 5, 3-0-2. They got a 5-game point streak going on for the Washington Capitals. So again, you look at it like I talked about with Edmonton, right, Age? Playing good hockey, but so are all those teams.
You know what? I gotta step up here, Michael. I mean, like I like the Leafs. You know, we're going to talk a little bit about the Leafs.
Really?
You know, we've talked about
This
them
is
earlier.
the team you're going
I
to?
like the Leafs, but I mean, here's the thing. Edmonton loses 1 game. Toronto loses 1 game. Edmonton is 9th after like 7 weeks of really good hockey. Toronto Maple Leafs stay in that top 6.
Yeah.
Why?
You know what?
I love when I ask the tough questions. I love when I ask them the tough questions.
All right, you're asking tough questions. These are good. You know what? The Toronto Maple Leafs, they did lose to Carolina. They've been playing a lot of winning hockey. They have not had Austin Matthews, a healthy Austin Matthews, for pretty much, the whole season. I mean, I know he's playing a little bit, missed some time.
Pretty hot.
They've
the
been
last
able to
4
survive.
games.
Yes. But
little
they didn't
chilly
have him.
last-
They were
little
able to
chilly
Little
survive.
chilly last
Little
night with
chilly
the
last
last
night.
6, though. A little chilly.
He's leading the Masters. Leading the
Injuries
Masters
to their
last night.
goal, injuries to goaltender Anthony Stolar. So they're dealing with a little bit more, and they've been able to hang in there and right at the top of their division. So that's why. There's your
Do
answer.
you buy that?
I mean, you talk about body of work. The Leafs, for me, I'm just not sold on until they get it done in playoffs. I mean, it's the same team. And granted, they're giving up less goals. They're defending
playing
well.
good.
They're playing Chief-style hockey,
Yeah.
right? And you have
And
to
you
give
know
them
him.
credit. I know him very well. I had him 2 different times with Philly and in St. Louis when we won the Cup. But until I see this team change the way they play and get it done in playoffs, I'm not high on them.
Well, that's fair. That's totally fair. But
Okay.
I mean, we're on January 10th here, so you got to,
All right.
Hey, but that is 100%.
Don't come after
right?
my guys in here. I'm not going to put up with that. Don't take a shot at him on
You
January
shouldn't.
10th.
You shouldn't. You got to step in. That's a good job. Way
All
to
right,
step
let's
in
go.
there
Let
for
me
your
see.
guy.
Let me just. Who do you got? The Rangers
right.
at number 1. Who do you have at number 1?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. No. All right, let's go. Number 4, the Winnipeg Jets. Listen, the Jets did lose a few games here, but again, we're talking body of work. It's been unbelievable for the Jets, and they came back and beat
You
Nashville.
just told
The
Michael it's January 10th, and now you're going to the body of work.
body of work. I told you about the Maple Leafs body of work. It's been very good.
Telling
this
him
year.
about January 10th, and you're
Oh,
coming back with
man.
body of work.
Minnesota Wild. I know they got hammered by the Avalanche,
Oh,
but you
yeah.
know what?
Yeah.
Kaprizov, Spurgeon, Brodin, Faber out, and they won 4 in a row before that. So,
Yeah.
and they faced an angry Avalanche team after the way it went in
very
Chicago. A very angry team. So I'm certainly not knocking the Avalanche. In fact, they've been arguably the best team in the league the past month. I mean, they have just been outstanding. 8-1-1 in their past 10, 12-3-1 in their past 16 games. But the Vegas Golden Knights, yes, they lose to the New York Islanders 4-0. It's a bad one. Those are going to happen over the course of the season. 13 wins out of 16 games since December 3rd for the Vegas Golden Knights. I'll give them the 1 mulligan. It's okay.
All right. I just got to listen. The Minnesota Wild I can't have in my top 5 right now because they've got too many guys out of the lineup. And I know that, they've been playing well up to this, but you just informed Michael again, it's January the 10th, so we're looking at today.
Yes.
No
And they won
Faber,
4
no
in a row before
Kaprizov.
that.
They're missing guys all left and right. They got hammered last night in their own building. I don't care how angry the Avalanche are. The problem for the Wild is they have too many guys out.
I'm throwing the challenge flag on that one, too.
Yeah,
if you look at their stats,
Thank you.
they're beating the teams they're supposed to beat, but any of the quality teams they're losing to. So once you come to playoffs, you're playing against those better teams.
Right.
So I don't like their chances then.
There you go.
Okay, listen, and that's fair. I'll totally give you that. And you know what? It's possible by next week, because I'm going off of this team that's been all banged up, and they still had 4 wins in a row going into that game against Colorado. By next week, they could be out of the top 5 because of those injuries. No question about it. But right now, I mean, I have to give them a lot of credit for hanging in with these injuries.
I do. I'll go back and circle it back to the Oilers again. I know they lost last night, but they had been really played very well for like several weeks now. Again, 15-4-1 over their last 20 games. That's pretty darn good. For me, they've got to be somewhere in that top 5 or 6. You have them inaccurately at 9, but, you know, that's no surprise.
No, well, you know what? As you like to think, I'll try to correct it for next week in your mind.
Please do.
In your mind.
Yeah, please do. But, like, you know, Vegas has played well. I mean, although they got blanked by the Islanders of all teams last night at home.
Listen, that happens.
But you're right. You're right. It's a hard league. It's a hard league.
They're not winning 82 in a row.
Stuff happens.
This happens.
Yeah, bad
and
nights.
The Islanders have the motivation. They came to play. They needed to play better. Plus, you had Lou Lamoriello giving basically a speech before the game to the media saying, like, I still believe in this team. You know, they better go out and play well. You know, they better do that.
He's been giving that same speech for like 5 years now, right? I mean, you're around here. Like, isn't it the same speech? It's the same players.
It's the same players. They run it back the same way. Michael, you know this. You can't run it back. You got to have change. There's got to be change. When you look at the New York Rangers, the New York Rangers made very minimal changes in the offseason, right? For a team that went to the conference final and didn't look very good in the conference final, even though they got to game 6. They ran it back the same way. Now look at the New York Rangers. You have to change. Teams figure out. It's too good of a league. You can't just keep running it back. And the Islanders keep running it back year after year after year, and they're just kind of going nowhere, just running in place.
So, Michael, what do you make of that list? I mean, it was okay.
It was okay. It was okay. There's a few. Minnesota, again,
too high.
Strongly disagree.
Too high.
Edmonton, right. I like up there a little bit.
Should have been a little bit higher.
Vegas, I agree with. Vegas is my number 1 team. I love the way they play. An okay list for my first time being on the show. I think I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
There's room for improvement.
He's just egging you on.
No, there's room for improvement. We can't get complacency.
What do you mean?
Hey, listen,
as Torts told me many years ago, complacency is death. Okay, so we cannot get complacent here. We're trying to get better as we go.
Safe as death.
EJ, you'll say it every week. I like to leave a little bit of room for improvement for the next week.
Well, I would say if I was given a grade here for this, probably C, just because I like you.
Wow.
C minus if I didn't like you.
You know,
C is fair, right?
Yeah, I was going B minus.
B minus.
I'll
He's a
take it
nicer guy than me.
Yeah.
You know,
is it because I didn't say Happy New Year? Is it because I didn't say Happy New Year?
Well, that certainly doesn't help your case. I mean, you come in here, you just blow by me. You haven't seen me in a month. How are you? What's going on? How was Ottawa?
By the
what are you
way,
up to? Fans want to know these things.
By the way, I will say your call on the World Juniors, spectacular.
You should have started with that.
No.
You're not leading with this.
I gotta feel bad. All right, give him
a guilt trip.
Give him an A.
Hold on a sec. Shockingly spectacular. How about that?
Hey, I was surprised myself. To be honest with you. All right, I think we're out of time with you, Rosen. So
all right, good.
Let's move along. Have a great weekend, Dan. Have a great weekend. All right, the Kings and the Jets getting together tonight in Winnipeg. 2 very good teams out west. We'll talk about that next on First Shift.
Super 16 is presented by Enterprise. We're here to keep you moving forward, whether it's around the corner or around the world. Official partner of the NHL.
Here's a tweet from the LA Kings, and we know obviously what's been going on in the news out in the Southern California, LA area, and our hearts go out to everyone out there. And you can see it here. The Kings, we honor the heroic Los Angeles Fire Department firefighters and first responders with this special helmet sticker, which we'll wear throughout this road trip. Tonight, our friends at the Winnipeg Jets will join us in support of our heroes back home. And our hearts and our prayers, our thoughts are with all those really been dramatically impacted by the wildfires out in the Los Angeles area. And the NHL has stepped up here and kind of partnered with Red Cross to help raise funds, help with the people involved, the first responders in response. The language for it is in response to the devastating wildfires ravaging the LA area. The NHL has partnered with the American Red Cross to provide relief efforts across the affected areas. Please consider donating using, as you can see there at the American Red Cross. It's the it's redcross.org/NHL. All the proceeds will go directly to the American Red Cross and to the families, victims, and first responders on the ground. And it goes without saying, our thoughts and prayers remain with everybody impacted out there. And just awful to see people losing everything they own.
Everything,
and, luckily those who have survived, that's the good news. You always want to worry about your health, first of all, but it's traumatic to lose so many things in your life in a flash, and we wish those families nothing but the best. And the LA Kings, they had a game canceled earlier in the week, and let's face it, the sporting events now they're not in the forefront right now, for sure. The football game has been moved. I guess they have a game coming up. They got the Rams. They're moved to Arizona. But for the LA Kings now, they're on a 5-game trip. And we were talking about this before, their families are back there. We were trying to figure out if it's good or bad they're on the road. Because, now you have other concerns, right? Even if it's not your immediate family, it could be friends. It could be, you get to know so many people that live in that area. Boy, it's got to be a difficult time to try to focus and play through.
You think of a guy like Kopitar, right? He's been there 15+ years.
Yeah.
He's got other family and friends that aren't just within the team, right? So is it great to be away from it a little bit, to get your mind off it? Probably a little bit of a great escape, but in the back of your mind, you're obviously worried about your family and friends back there, because there isn't an end in sight right now, and you're worried about their best interests. So it's a tough position to be in. I guess it comes at a good time to be on the road, but hard to really stay focused for these games, and you feel sorry for all of them and what they're going through, and you hope there's an end to this as soon as possible.
Yeah. So our thoughts and prayers with everybody out in the Southern California area. And as for the Kings, the game does go on tonight. This road trip does begin, and it's, they're playing the Winnipeg Jets. It's a team in the Western Conference that's high in the standings, as they are. It's kind of a little bit of a little touchstone game in the season for both of these clubs. And teams that have made, let's face it, they made that big trade, the Dubois trade, worked out good for Winnipeg. Didn't necessarily work out good for LA, although they were able to trade Dubois and get Kemper now. Yeah. But, what do you make of a matchup like this? When you were playing, you went into a matchup like this middle of the season. What was the thought about trying to send any messages about where we stand against another team?
It's a good measuring stick, and both very high quality teams that you'd imagine are going to be in the playoffs and probably looking to make a deep run. The thing that stands out with LA, though, is they've been doing this without Drew Doughty. Right?
Yeah,
Drew Doughty still at his age is eating 25+ minutes a night. So as we mentioned before, it's an opportunity for other guys to step up in his absence, and they're doing a fantastic job. And you look at the records here, these are two very good teams. So they'll be excited for this one. I know it's 40+ games in, but you're still trying to measure yourself up against other top teams to see where you stand and how you're playing at this time of year, and then come playoff time, probably expecting to see them.
At some point you may.
And it's going to sneak up on them.
Let me ask you about the first game of the trip as a player. You get ready, you pack, you go on what's the mindset on the first game of the trip? Because I would think you're looking to get off to a good start. You want to win every night.
Yeah.
But what's the feeling as you get off the plane in a new city? You know you're going to be on the road for a while. What is it? Is that first one stand out more for you?
Absolutely. You want to gain some confidence going into a long road trip. And again, Winnipeg, not the most desirable city to be going to on the road, so you're very focused on that one.
Especially in January.
Exactly. It's freezing right now. They got their parkas, they got their toques on. So they're looking forward to getting off to a good start, building some momentum, and hopefully, when you go on a 5-game road trip, as a good team, you're at least trying to get out of that 3-2, right?
Yeah.
So that's probably what their goal is. Anything more than that is a bonus, and then you take care of your home games.
Hey, I want to ask you again, as a defenseman, Brandt Clarke came into the league. He's a high draft pick. I've had my eye on him. I liked him at the junior level. I think he's played well, because you mentioned Doughty out. He's getting more opportunity. What have you made? Have you got to see him a lot? And if you have, what do you think?
Yeah, that's the thing. When you get that opportunity, and this wasn't a short-term injury for Drew Doughty. So as a player who's filling in that role and filling in for those minutes that are lost, that you have a little bit of wiggle room, that if you do have an off game, you're not worried, okay, am I back on the second pair? Am I back on the third pair? Am I not playing power play? Or am I out of the lineup completely, right?
So
it gives you a little bit more a little bit more wiggle room to explore with your game and maybe take a few more chances than you expected. And you're not always squeezing the stick. Maybe it allows you to make that seam pass that you never would, or that stretch pass, or maybe a toe drag at the blue line, which you're seeing a lot of these offensive defensemen do now. So that having a little bit more time to fill in a role, it's shown, and he's done a fantastic job. But now what happens when Drew comes back? It's going to be a little bit of time for him to get his game legs under him. Does he fill in the role that he's had for 16 seasons, or what happens now? I guess it's a good problem to have for the coaching staff, right?
Yeah, they say you never have enough defensemen.
Yes.
So, and you would be probably first to second that as
Correct.
a defenseman. But the Kings are playing some good hockey, and it's surprising to me that they've played so well without Doughty. One quick little aside on the Rangers and Devils last night. The Rangers, we talked about them a lot. It's been a struggle this year. They get the winner in overtime last night, of all people, Sam Carrick. Off the rush, buries the one-timer there to give the Rangers the victory. But it seemed like they tightened things up and had a better game last night. You can see here 2 power play goals. The penalty kill was good. I mean, that was their formula over the last couple of years.
Igor stood in it, made some big saves. Their power play got them some goals. This is what makes them successful. There was definitely, I think, a little bit of bad blood. They lost 5-0 before the holidays, and that stuck with them. Maybe this is the game. Maybe this is the game that gets them a little bit of confidence and gets them playing better consistently. It's been a very unfortunate start, and I'm still cheering for them. That's where I had my longest tenure in the NHL. But you see the emotions right there. They were excited for that one. The Garden was bumping with that, unsung hero in Sam Carrick there. I didn't expect to see him on the ice.
They just want to win. I mean, they just happy to see a win.
It doesn't matter who gets it done.
Yeah.
With Kreider injured too, once he does come back, you'd like to see him and Mika maybe step up a little bit and
that's
back
the
to where
guy
they were
for
playing
me.
Before.
That's the guy for me is 93.
Yeah.
He's Zibanejad because he's your number one center,
Yeah.
and we know what he's been able to do in the past, and he's still a relatively young guy at 31 years of age. So, can they get him back? Like he's been on this trajectory. Can they get that plane back in the air and get him going again? And it's you wonder, can it happen?
And he plays all situations. Right?
Yeah.
That's why it's
so
magnified.
It impacts
he's playing,
everything.
He's playing the first penalty kill, him and Kreider. He's playing the first power play on the half-wall flank. He's playing 5-on-5. He's your number one center. Those are important minutes. So if you're struggling in one area, it's tough for you to win. And you'd like to see him get back to where he was before. But I'm not sure it's there, right? I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see.
Because Michael, you've seen it in your career playing against guys like, guys. I always say, going back to the time when I used to scout, is like guys are getting better and getting worse every day. It's no knock. It's just reality that they do. Yeah. And he has been on this kind of longer plane downward. And listen, I'd be thrilled to see him go out and just start lighting it up again. Really a good person from all accounts and everything. But this is professional sports.
Everyone's a good player. That's how I explain it. When you have your confidence, how long can you keep it?
Yeah.
When you don't have your confidence, how quickly can you get it back? And he hasn't had his confidence for
seemingly, right?
20 plus games, maybe more, maybe from the start of the year. It's just been an off year for him. So it's not easy to get back, and it's not easy to get back when you're playing at MSG 41 times a year and the fans are on you, right?
And there's been a lot of discussion, right, with the trades and all the things that have gone on behind the scenes. So Rangers are happy to get that win. They go off on a road trip now. We'll see if they can perhaps build on it, because that race in the East, it's going to go on and on and on till the end of the year. So we will see how things play out. We got more First Shift coming up next. We're going to talk about some of the players that didn't get a chance to play in the Four Nations. At least we don't think they will, depending on injuries. We're going to take a look at that coming up next on First Shift. Four Nations face-off is coming up, only a month away now. And, they picked the rosters on December the 4th. So we got some guys for both Team USA and Team Canada. These guys were not selected, but maybe a little ticked off. And so it shows in the play. Look at this. I mean, Caulfield with 15 points in the 15 games. Clayton Keller, I thought he had a chance to make it. I love the potential chemistry with him and Austin Matthews. He's been great. Jason Robertson has found his game again. Tage Thompson is playing through some kind of injury and still putting up points. Team Canada, same story. You got a bunch of guys there. Connor Bedard has played much better late. Glad to see that. Evan Bouchard is finding his way again offensively. His teammate Zach Hyman had a terrible start. He had injuries. He's rolling now. I have no idea why Mark Scheifele was not on the team to begin with, but he wasn't. You can see 16 games, 21 points. Nick Suzuki's another guy that could have been on it, and Logan Thompson in goal has just had a really good year, and he continues to roll along with some great numbers. So, Michael, again, I lean on your experience in the league and been around all these guys that, some of these really high-end guys, that it's a big deal for them, and then not make it, does it tick them off?
It does. They're obviously playing with a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah, a little bit,
They're
right?
trying to prove someone wrong. It's a tough job to have. There are so many good players.
I know.
And you only have so many top 6 spots, guys that are going to play in your power play, guys that are going to be relied upon to score. You're going to need guys that have to kill penalties, guys that are going to block shots, guys that have to take face-offs. So a lot of these top guys are used to playing a certain role. So I think finding players that are a little versatile, right? Guys that can play up and down the lineup. And that's why I think Scheifele should be on there. And no offense to Seth Jarvis, but I think having Scheifele there, at least he can play the wing, he can play center, he can play all situations. As far as the U.S. team, yeah, some good players, but I'm looking at their roster. If you're Caulfield on the right wing, are you playing him over Matthew Tkachuk? And you got Jack Hughes potentially there.
Goldie's been good.
Yeah, so
Trocheck's the center, but you can move him.
Correct, and Trocheck's going to kill penalties. Trocheck's going to do numerous things for you, right? Where Caulfield is going to play an offensive style of game and score goals. They have enough guys that are going to do that. So it's a tough job to have. You have to fill out positions, and you have to fill out, go off situational play. It's not just about having the best players on the ice.
I think Cole is an interesting one because, he is a sniper.
Yeah.
Right? And so, you don't normally see him in a penalty-killing role or in a different role. I will say this, though, just coming back from the World Juniors, there was a lot of discussion about did Canada take the right players, and I felt, and I don't follow the junior hockey, the CHL, as closely as some people do up in Canada and many others, but a guy like Michael Misa, who was an exceptional status kid, who's leading the OHL in scoring, to me, find a way to take him. I mean, Team USA took Cole Eiserman as a first-round pick, an Islander pick. He ended up not playing a ton, but when he played, he was really important for them, and he bought into the role. And I guess what I would say is that I think the best players want to be there. And I think they're willing, if you sell them on a role, I think they want to be there so much, they're willing to do that. But you have to sell them. And, there are some guys that maybe that it's harder to find a role for them. But I think some guys you could do that with.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree to a certain extent, but at the same time, someone willing to do something as opposed to someone who's already done it.
Can do it.
5, 10 years, who's been doing it a long time, where that is their actual role, it comes natural to them. It's a little bit different. You're going to go with the guy that has the experience as opposed to someone, and you appreciate their will or their putting their team first attitude, but that's not always the best player to have in that situation.
It's like
right?
putting those pieces together. It's like you said it at the start. There's so many good players, right? And everybody's going to have a different opinion. If you sat there at the drawing board and I sat over here and we had we would inevitably, it would be unlikely we would pick the same, X amount of skaters and X goalies because we'd all have a different way of doing it. And I've been saying it now at the World Juniors and certainly in the 4 nations. There's 4 teams. The team that wins made no mistakes. Yeah. The other 3 teams, we'll be here talking about who they could have had or maybe how it could have helped them be different, right?
We're talking about players that have over a point a game.
Yeah.
These are
high-end
superstar players. These are top 10, top 20 players. A little bit comes into it, I guess, who's picking the team, right? You look at Canada with Doug Armstrong. Colton Parayko, probably not having the best of year even last year, but knows him well, right? He's had him for
and that's
as long
important
as he has.
too. Understands him, knows him well.
Exactly. Understanding not just the player, but the person, right? Understanding who they are as people and what they're able to bring to that locker room. So that comes into play as well, right? Because some of these players, you've watched them play for numerous years, but you don't know who they are as people.
Yeah, the one that stood out to me on Team USA, and Scheifele for Canada, but John Carlson for Team USA. They were locked into McAvoy and Fox from the start. And I don't think either of those guys has played as good as they can play, right? And so if they had not been picked already, maybe they wouldn't have been picked in this situation. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they were locked into those 2 guys. They wanted to bring Faber as a right shot guy. And then their 7th guy was Hanifin, and he's a lefty. For me, not being sure about Fox and McAvoy to that standard they're normally at, a young kid in Faber who is now hurt, by the way, and who knows how that's going to play out because these guys could end up getting added anyway before the tournament. But John Carlson, boy, he's having a great year, big, strong, right shot guy. I just had a hard time figuring out why he would be left off.
I agree. A veteran guy who's done it for as long as he has.
And he's playing well.
He's playing very well. He was actually my D partner in junior, so I know I'm very familiar with him. It's hard because Fox is struggling a little bit. He's more of a power play guy, but it's all about getting chemistry between the two, between the pair and D partners. They're all good players.
Yeah, they are.
It's a tough decision. We'll see who wins, and then we can break it down after.
I would love to see that.
Start pointing some
I'd love to
fingers.
see that D pair, you and Johnny Carlson together.
We're okay. We're logging 30 or so.
I'm sure you guys.
Junior,
it was more than okay. I'm sure you guys did really good in Oshawa, right?
In London. I got
London, okay.
London, yes.
Okay, there you go. Schooled me again. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk a little Red Wings. Patty Kane and the Wings. They're right here on the NHL Network on tonight, and we'll have them on Sunday as well. Red Wings talk next on First Shift. So there is the Kraken and Red Wings. Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, NHL Network Showcase. I'll be on the call alongside Kevin Weeks. So looking forward to that one. The Red Wings are on our air tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks. They make a coaching change. They lose the first game. Now they've rattled off 5 in a row, and the schedule is good. Chicago tonight, Seattle Sunday, and then San Jose. Coaching bump, is it real?
It's real. It's
Yeah,
real.
it's real.
You have a new coach that comes in. Everyone, you're playing for your job, right? You maybe get a little complacent with the coaching staff before. Hey, this is the team that we have, and we're not making any changes, and we're trying to figure out a way to get out of it. A new coach comes in. He doesn't have his guys. It's a clean slate for everyone, right? So he's going to put people in places where he thinks they're going to succeed, and if he's not seeing it, he's going to give other guys opportunities. So it's clearly working.
It's working so far. They won 5 in a row again. Red Wings tonight against the Blackhawks. Sunday afternoon, NHL Network Showcase, 3 p.m. Tune in. Michael, great job.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Come back anytime.
Anytime you have me.
All right. Have a good weekend.